After paying off my husband's $60,000 debt and letting his brother live rent-free in our basement, I found a note in my laundry basket. "You're a boring mother, not a wife." He took our baby, his Xbox, and left me with an empty house. His mom called me screaming that I ruined her son's life. But she had no idea what I discovered on his old hard drive, and what I did with that file made headlines at his new job. I met Danny when I was 24, fresh out of nursing school. He was 2 years older, working IT for a small company in Louisville, Kentucky. We met at a bar downtown. He bought me a drink, and we talked for hours. He was funny, had those soft brown eyes that made you feel seen. He didn't have a car, said it got repossessed after a rough patch. I didn't care. I had my own job, my own apartment. I was proud of that. We moved fast. Maybe too fast. But I wanted someone to build a life with. He told me all about his debt. $60,000 in credit cards, some personal loans, all from helping out people who burned him. He said he was ashamed. Said he wanted to start clean. I thought, okay, this is what love means. You don't run. So I didn't. I married him at 26. We moved into a little 2-bedroom rental on the edge of Jeffersontown. I picked up extra shifts. I handled the bills. I cooked. I cleaned. And slowly, over 2 years, I paid off his entire $60,000 debt. Every damn penny. It meant no vacations. No splurging. Just hard work and budgeting. He cried when I showed him the final payment receipt. Full-on sobbed. Told me I was his angel. "You saved me," he said. I held him while he cried. By our 3rd year, we'd scraped enough together for a down payment on a house. A fixer-upper. He wanted to flip it. He had dreams, always half-finished. I made it a home anyway. Then Kyle came. Danny's little brother. 22, fresh out of some halfway house in Indiana. Danny said he just needed a place to crash for a month. That month turned into a year. He didn't work. He smoked weed in the basement and played Call of Duty until 4 a.m. I heard every shot through the vents while I was trying to sleep. I told Danny I didn't feel comfortable with him there. "He's family," he said. "Don't make me choose." So I kept my mouth shut. Even when Kyle got high and left the back door wide open in the middle of winter. Even when he clogged the upstairs toilet and blamed it on the pipes. Even when I caught him stealing beer money from my purse. Because by then, I was pregnant. I had Jamie in April. Danny held him for 5 minutes and handed him back like he was made of glass. Said he didn't want to mess up. I tried to be understanding. I was exhausted, bleeding, and barely sleeping. I kept hoping he'd come around. But things got worse. Danny started sleeping in the guest room. Said he needed a real bed to sleep for job interviews. I never saw any interviews. He said the economy was trash. Said people were intimidated by his genius. He spent hours on his desktop, always in incognito mode. I didn't push. One Tuesday, I left work early. My mom had Jamie for the day. I walked into a quiet house. Too quiet. I went upstairs. The baby's crib was gone. The pack-and-play was gone. Danny's computer, gone. His Xbox, gone. The only thing he left behind? A crumpled note in my laundry basket, written in Sharpie. "You're a boring mother, not a wife. Don't call." My knees gave out. I sat on the floor of our laundry room, staring at the dryer spinning. I remember the sound of the buttons clinking against the metal. I called him, straight to voicemail. I called Kyle, disconnected. I called Carol, his mother. She picked up and started screaming. "What did you do to my son?" I just said, "Carol, he took Jamie. You ruined him. You treated him like a child. You think men like being told what to do? You sucked the life out of him." She called me bitter. She said I used Jamie to trap him. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask where I was. She hung up on me like I was a stranger. That was 2 days after he left. The house felt like a corpse. I stayed in the nursery that night just to feel close to something. 3 more days passed. No word. No police report, because he was the father, and there wasn't a custody order yet. I had no idea where my baby was. That's when I found it. I wasn't even looking for anything. I was in the hall closet, pulling down old photo albums. We had one of those plastic storage bins full of cords and old tech stuff. I opened it to get rid of it. Under some tangled chargers and a cracked tablet was a hard drive. It was labeled, D Backup, 2018. I plugged it into my laptop. And what I saw made me physically sick. The files loaded slowly. It was an old drive, maybe from his job 2 companies ago. I expected to see software stuff, or maybe his music files. But there was a folder on the desktop called Private, Do Not Open. I clicked it. There were hundreds of screenshots, videos, PDFs. Most of it looked like webcam footage, some of it grainy, some clear. I opened one labeled October 14th, 22 bedroom 2. It was footage of me standing in our bedroom, folding Jamie's baby clothes. I didn't know a camera was in there. I felt cold. My hands shook as I clicked through more. The bathroom, the laundry room, even one labeled Master Shower. There were folders with other names too, some labeled with his old coworkers, even an ex-girlfriend I'd heard him talk about once in a weird, bitter tone. He'd been spying on people. For years. Not just me. Not just in our house. There were edited videos. I could tell he'd cut together clips to make it look like something else, like a woman undressing, who clearly didn't know she was on camera. I realized then that some of these videos, they weren't just creepy. They were illegal. He saved everything. Organized by date and name. Like it was a damn collection. I was shaking. I called my sister, Holly, in full panic. She's a paralegal and sharp as hell. I told her what I found. She came over within an hour. Don't touch anything else, she said. We're going to need all of this. She backed up the entire hard drive to a new flash drive and emailed copies to herself. Then we went to the police. The detective at the station didn't blink much, but I saw his jaw tighten when he scrolled through the files. He asked me 100 questions. I answered every single one. They took the hard drive as evidence. But that was just the start. A week later, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. It was from Georgia. I almost didn't pick up. Mrs. Ransley, a voice said. This is Officer Chavez with the Duluth Police Department. We found your son. Jamie. They had him. Danny had been living under a fake name with Kyle at a cheap rental outside Atlanta. The property manager had reported suspicious behavior after seeing Kyle walking outside with a child at midnight. Said he was worried about neglect. When officers arrived, Danny wasn't there, but Kyle was. Hi. Slurring. And Jamie was in a dirty playpen next to an empty bottle. They took Kyle in immediately. Danny came back hours later and tried to lie, saying I was unfit and had abandoned them. But the cops had already read the Louisville police report. They didn't believe a word he said. Jamie was taken by CPS temporarily. I had to go through 3 interviews, background checks, and even a home visit before I could get him back. But I did. I got my baby back. And Danny? He skipped bail 2 days later. Disappeared off the grid. But I wasn't done. While the legal case worked through the system, I kept digging. Holly helped me track down his old company, the one where that hard drive had probably been used. He used to brag about having access to the internal network, about knowing where all the bodies were buried. So I emailed the files, not just to HR, to the CEO, to the board, and to a local reporter. The story broke 3 days later. Former IT employee under investigation for illegal surveillance and stalking. Company confirms internal breach. His name, his face, plastered all over Kentucky and Georgia news. Carol called again. This time, she was sobbing. What did you do? You're destroying his life. I said nothing for a second. Then I told her, calm as I could, He's been recording me in our bathroom since 2019, Carol. He left our son with a junkie. And he tried to vanish like none of it happened. I'm not destroying his life. I'm showing people who he really is. She hung up. I thought the headlines would be the end of it. I was wrong. A week after the news story hit, I got a package at my door. No return address. It was a manila envelope wrapped in 2 layers of duct tape. Inside was a single printed page and a flash drive. The note said, "You think you're smart, but you never asked how I paid that debt off." My stomach dropped. I plugged the flash drive into a spare laptop I kept in the closet. Holly sat next to me, arms folded tight. There was a folder with banking statements. Multiple accounts. Offshore. They weren't mine. They were Danny's and 2 others tied to names I didn't recognize. The amounts were big. $5,000 here. $12,000 there. Spread out. Laundered. And then I saw the source. Fraudulent refunds. He'd been rerouting money from clients at his old job. Tech support customers. Elderly people who called for help and had to give access to their devices. He'd refund them more than they were owed, then guilt-trip them into sending back the overpaid amount. Only the accounts he gave them weren't legit. He pocketed the difference. And did it over and over. That's how he paid off part of that $60,000. Not me. Not just me. He'd been stealing for years. I printed every document. Holly reached out to her boss. By the next morning, a forensic accountant was involved. And it didn't stop there. 3 different women reached out after the news article. One from Indiana, one from Tennessee, and one from Ohio. All had dated Danny at some point. One of them, Cassandra, said he threatened her with private videos after they broke up. Another said he crashed her car and left her with the repair bill. The third said he used her name to open a credit card and destroyed her credit before ghosting her. He had a pattern. He found women who were kind, hardworking, and trusting. He drained them, then disappeared. I became the one who finally lit the match. The authorities started building a full case. Not just for the peeping videos, but fraud, extortion, and harassment. Meanwhile, I was still picking up pieces. Jamie had night terrors for weeks. He'd cry every time I turned the lights off. I found him hiding behind the couch one afternoon, clutching his blanket and whispering, "Daddy said don't tell." That's when I decided something. I wasn't going to just fight to put Danny in prison. I was going to make sure his face followed him forever. I had one more card to play. I knew about the hard drive, the surveillance videos, the fraud, the threats. But there was something still gnawing at me, the timeline. Some of the oldest files on that hard drive were from before we were married. That meant he was recording people even when we were still dating. I went back into the folder named Projects. I had avoided it at first because the name sounded too vague. But when I opened it, it all made sense. Danny had been building something. A private server hidden behind a VPN and a proxy wall. Password protected, buried under dummy domains. It was a website. The layout was basic, early 2000s style. But the content? Chilling. Dozens of folders with random usernames. Each contained videos, webcam footage, changing room peaks, stolen nudes, some clearly taken from hacked cloud accounts. All with captions. Comments. Some were from users I didn't recognize. But others? They were from Danny. He was interacting with people. Running it. Selling access. He'd turned spying into profit. This wasn't just some creepy personal stash. This was a criminal operation. I took screenshots. Logged everything. Then Holly got the Department of Homeland Security involved through a contact she had. It was above local jurisdiction now. Meanwhile, Carol showed up at my house. Not called. Not texted. Just showed up. She pounded on my door for 5 minutes straight until I opened it with the chain on. She looked awful, red-eyed, hair in a messy bun, face splotchy. "You're going to get him killed," she snapped. I didn't say anything. He called me. Said people are threatening him. You had no right to go public like that. I stared at her through the crack in the door. He ran a voyeur site. He stole money. He took Jamie. That's still his son. I shut the door in her face. 5 days later, someone slashed my tires. The police said there wasn't enough proof to tie it to anyone, but I knew it was Carol or someone doing Danny's dirty work. The investigator warned me to stay aware, possibly change locks and passwords again. I moved Jamie's daycare to a new location under a different name. Then came the email. It was from a burner account, no reply address. If you go through with this, the video of you in the shower goes live. I froze. That video. From our home. From when I was 8 months pregnant. I remembered it. He labeled it Master Shower. My stomach turned just thinking about it. I called Holly. I want to go public, I said. Everything. My face, my story. Everything. You sure? I want them to know who he really is. I want him to know I'm not afraid. She arranged the interview. A national outlet picked it up within 48 hours. A full story. Wife of alleged online predator speaks out. He filmed me in the shower while I was carrying his child. The video never leaked. But more victims came forward. One woman in her 40s. One who looked barely 19. Some said they recognized the layout of the bathroom in the videos. Some said they'd wondered for years how their nudes ended up online. Danny had hacked them or used remote access he'd hidden on their laptops after helping fix them. It was a tidal wave now. And Danny? He was still on the run. It ended in Nevada. 2 months after I went public, Danny got caught trying to cross into Mexico near the Arizona border. He was using a fake ID under the name Chris Walters. Homeland Security had flagged his alias from my files. When they stopped him, he had cash, an unregistered phone, and a USB drive in his sock. He didn't fight it. He didn't say a word. Back in Kentucky, I sat in court for every single hearing. I stared straight ahead as he walked in, shackled, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. His eyes scanned the room like he expected someone to save him. No one did. The charges stacked up: identity theft, wire fraud, unlawful surveillance, child endangerment, hosting obscene material, interstate flight from prosecution, 37 felonies. He took a plea deal. 25 years, no parole for at least 18. Kyle got 6 years for obstruction and possession. He cried in court. Said Danny manipulated him. Maybe he did. But Kyle let my baby sit in a dirty playpen while he got high in a 2-bit rental, so I didn't shed a tear for him. Carol didn't show up. Not for the trial. Not for the sentencing. She tried to send a letter through her lawyer saying I owed her a car Kyle had been borrowing. I forwarded it to the detective. Haven't heard from her since. But I wasn't done. With Holly's help, I filed a civil suit for emotional damages, privacy violations, and fraud. We won. The judge froze every asset tied to Danny, even the offshore accounts I helped uncover. They seized the server. Shut down the site. Danny had to forfeit everything he had left to the victims, and that's where my mistake came in. I didn't see it sooner. I ignored red flags. I tried to be the ride-or-die wife. Paid his debts. Let his leech of a brother live under my roof. Looked away when things didn't add up. I gave him years of my life, years I can't get back. I've made peace with that now. Jamie's 5 today. He doesn't remember his dad. I don't tell him much yet, just that he's far away and won't be coming back. I'll tell him the truth when he's ready. And I'll tell him everything. I own the house now. Paid off. No debt. No secrets. Sometimes, I still get messages from women who saw my story. Some are strangers. Some used to know Danny and now see him for who he really was. They thank me. But I don't want thanks. I just want people to know. Silence is what people like him count on. And when you speak up, even when it's hard, even when it costs you everything, you take their power away. He tried to erase me, but I made sure the world never forgets him.